library. My name is Cavan Fang. I've lived here in Viroqua since summer of 2002, so I'm still a newcomer here in town. But I am a native cheesehead, born and raised in Stevens Point, and I do love cheese, but I also enjoy eating instant noodles, which is really convenient because this is a video about instant noodles. This video is part of the library's program, Creating Community Beyond Bias's Library Resources. This is a year-long, all-ages program where the library focuses each month on a different set of heritages or histories. In January, the library is focusing on East Asian heritage, and for that reason, I have been invited to come and talk about instant noodles. There are many, many kinds of instant noodles. There are some that come with their own cup or bowl and some that come in a plastic pouch. There are some that come with added ingredients like dried dehydrated vegetables or crispy topping or even dried meat. Instant noodles range in size from very thin rice noodles to very thick udon-style noodles. And you can tell from context that udon is just a very thick kind of noodle. Instant noodles come with soup, in a sauce, in gravy, or in curry, and of course there are all kinds of different flavors. Here I have 4 different kinds of flavors. Thanks to the generosity of a grant from the Viroqua Food Co-op, the library has been able to provide 4 different types of instant ramen noodles for the Creating Community program. So, first, we have a kind of a basic instant ramen noodle. This one is soy sauce flavored from a brand called Top Ramen, which you've probably seen in various stores because this brand is all over the place. Top Ramen is made by a Japanese company called Nissin, which was founded by Momofuku Ando, who was the man who invented instant ramen noodles. And for that reason, Top Ramen markets itself as the original. The library has a book called Magic Ramen, the story of Momofuku Ando. And it tells the story of how instant noodles were invented. And you can check this out from the library. Shameless plug for the library there. So next we have another Japanese style of noodle. This one is flavored of miso. Miso is a fermented soybean paste which has a very strong umami or savory flavor. It's very, very common in Japanese cooking. And if you've ever eaten at a Japanese restaurant, you've probably eaten miso. So this next one is a bowl noodle. It comes in its own bowl and it cooks right in its own package. This is from a Korean-based company called Nongshim, and the flavor for this one is kimchi. Kimchi is a Korean style of fermented pickled vegetable. It's usually made with Chinese cabbage and chili peppers. It's kind of like a Korean version of sauerkraut. It's usually sour and a little bit spicy, and this particular type of instant noodle is, in fact, a little bit spicy. Okay. Finally, we have a noodle from Hong Kong. This one is flavored of sesame oil. Sesame oil has a distinctive nutty flavor and aroma that I really like. It's kind of hard to describe, so you'll just have to make this for yourself and see what it tastes like. I've never had this brand before. It's called Dal Ramen Noodles, so I'm looking forward to trying it. All right, let's start with these bowl noodles. Now, these cook right in the package. There are instructions for how to cook it in the microwave oven and also how to cook it on the stove, just on the tabletop using hot water. And that way you can cook it even if you don't have a stovetop or a microwave oven. All we need is a source of hot water like this tabletop electric tea kettle, which is already heated up. Almost all instant noodles cook roughly the same way. You put the seasoning packet and the noodles into hot water and you let them cook for 3 minutes and you've got a meal. Of course, there are some variations, like thick noodles might take a little bit longer to cook and thin noodles might take a little bit shorter, and there might be different instructions for how to add the flavor packs, whether at the beginning or at the end. So when in doubt, read the instructions, and even if the packet is printed in a foreign language, there's usually cartoon instructions that'll help you out. So for this one, the instructions say, we'll partway open the lid, not all the way, we'll take up the flavor pack, and I don't know if you can really see that, but down in the bowl, there are some dried vegetables. So you get some extra nutrition with this one. So next, we'll open the packet with seasoning, and we'll add it to the bowl. Now, I'm adding only about half of this packet into the bowl because I usually find instant noodles very salty. And a half to 3/4 of the seasoning packet is usually enough for me. Also, I figure I can always add more seasoning later, but if I oversalt it, I can't take it back out again. All right, so it's in there. Take our water. We will pour it in, fill it up to the line. Now we will close the lid. I'm going to use this paper clip to hold the lid shut so that all of the heat stays inside. Okay. Now, according to the directions, I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. Although I personally like my noodles a little bit softer, so I'm going to actually set my timer for 4 minutes. And that's all there is to it. We get a meal. Or we can get fancy. We can make a more substantial meal out of these noodles by adding different garnishes. For example, this is a piece of Chinese barbecued pork. I grew up calling this char siu, but in other dialects you might hear it pronounced cha shao. Char siu is a very common topping for ramen. Just cut a few slices here. Now, as I said, this is a Chinese style of char siu, which is different from the Japanese style. And the Japanese style is braised rather than roasted, but it will all taste very good. Now, if you don't have any pork lying around, then you can use some other meat like chicken or roast beef or sliced up hot dogs or spam. Seriously, try hot dogs, you'll be surprised. Or you can leave out the meat and just go vegetarian. Chopped scallions are another good topping because they cook very quickly and the heat of the bowl is enough to just soften them a little bit. So I'm going to slice up a little bit here. Now, most people call them green onions, but they're really scallions. And they're ready to go. A hard-boiled or soft-boiled egg is another common topping for ramen. I think that a soft-boiled egg like this one is more traditional, but I am more likely to have a leftover hard-boiled egg already sitting around. So you can use either one and they're both just as good. So since this one is already peeled, all I have to do is slice it up. And these are ready to put in. The bean sprouts are another very good topping for the same reason as the scallions, because the residual heat in the bowl is enough to instantly cook the bean sprouts just enough so that they remain crispy. I don't have to do anything with these because these are already been stuffed. I'll just have those ready there. Another topping that is popular in parts of Japan is corn kernels. And you don't usually think about that with Asian food. And sometimes they will also add butter with the corn kernels. I'm not adding that today because I don't think it really goes very well with the kimchi flavor. And also, I left my can opener at home. So you can try this at home if you like, maybe with other flavors of ramen. Also, bamboo shoots are another thing that you can put on. Usually you can get them sliced thin and they'll just warm up in the soup. I'd say don't open a whole new can just to make a bowl of ramen, but if you happen to have bamboo shoots sitting around for some other reason, then hey, go ahead and try them. All right, it has been about 4 minutes there. So let's open up our noodles. Take the lid off. We'll give it a stir. Let's see, let me just taste the soup to make sure that I got the seasoning right, and I don't need to add more. Okay, that is about right for me. So now, I'm going to put some bean sprouts in. I'm going to kind of push them underwater so that they cook a little bit. That's enough. We will add our eggs. We will add our chashu pork. Let's add our scallions. And it looks like it's ready to eat. All right, well, let's eat. I've got my chopsticks here. Although if you don't have chopsticks, you can certainly eat the noodles with a fork and a spoon. There is no wrong way to eat. I was about to say there's no wrong way to eat instant noodles, but if the noodles end up on the floor, that is the wrong way to eat instant noodles. So let's not do that. Let's go in. Get some noodles here. Okay, that's pretty good. Not too spicy. Let me try a little bit with chashu. Even better. Although, I personally find it easier to eat noodles with the chopsticks. Let's see. Some bean sprouts. And a little soup. If you're not familiar with using chopsticks, they're not difficult to learn, but it takes a little bit of practice. The way that I usually explain it is, you take the one chopstick and you hold it, kind of like most people would hold a pencil with your 2 fingers and your thumb. And then you can kind of move it up and down like you're writing. Now, when you're moving that up and down, these 2 other fingers really aren't doing anything, they're just hanging out there. So you can take your other chopstick, tuck it underneath your thumb, and then these 2 fingers can hold the chopstick in place, the lower chopstick, and kind of squeeze. And while those are squeezing, the top chopstick can move just like it was moving before. And that is how you can pick up a piece of food. Now, these chopsticks that I'm using are Chinese-style chopsticks. They are long and straight with kind of a blunt end. Japanese-style chopsticks are tapered from the blunt end to the fine tip. These are better for picking up a small items like a single grain of rice. but you can't pick up as much as you can at one time with Chinese chopsticks. Korean chopsticks are similar to Japanese, except that they are a little flatter and they're made out of metal. I don't have any of those to show you, but you can imagine. Now, if you are just learning chopsticks, I recommend that you stick with plain wood or bamboo and stay away from plastic or lacquered wood because those will be too slippery. Disposable chopsticks from a Chinese restaurant, those will be just fine. Oh, I should not be so rude. Excuse me. In Japan, it is considered polite to slurp your noodles to show appreciation for the ramen chef. And you would not want the ramen chef and anyone else nearby to think that you don't like the noodles, because then the ramen chef might lose face. And I would rather help the ramen chef save face or even gain face by properly appreciating their noodles. Slurping has other advantages. It's a much faster way to eat the noodles, and the slurping action cools the noodles before you eat them. Also, the airflow helps to enhance the flavors. Of course, I'm not Japanese. My heritage is Chinese, and my mother, when she was growing up, she would have gotten a scolding if she had slurped her noodles, so I never developed the habit. As for other parts of China and other countries in East Asia, I really couldn't tell you what the custom is. Let's try some of this egg. Very nice. These are pretty good. But I do want to try some of these other noodles too, so let's stop for a moment and I'll clean up a bit. This is a bit of a mess. I wish I had a magic wand or something. The magic word, please. That's better. Let's try the miso flavored noodles next. I think I'll do these on the stovetop because I think that stovetop cooked noodles have a better texture than the ones cooked inside the bowl. And also, with the stovetop method, you get a lot more flexibility of the things that you can add in. For example, I like to poach an egg in the water right along with the noodles. So let's do that. The package says heat up 500 milliliters of water, that's about 2 cups, and I've already done that. The package also says you should add the seasoning at the end, but I'm such a rebel, I'm going to add the seasoning first. That way, the eggs will pick up some of the miso flavor. Now again, I'm going to add probably about half of the package, so it's not too salty. Side there. Stir that in. All right. Now, if you don't want to throw away the rest of your seasoning, you can keep it around to use as seasoned salt. You can try it on your eggs or your French fries or your vegetables or even on your popcorn. That's an interesting flavor. All right, let me taste. Okay, that's about right for me. So the soup is simmering. I'm going to crack the egg right into the soup. There we go. Now, if you like your poached eggs really runny, then you can put the noodle brick in right away. But I like my poached eggs a little firmer, so I'm going to give it a minute to firm up. Okay, that's enough time. Oh, there's a surprise. This noodle pack has an extra flavor packet for an added flavor boost. So I'm going to wait until the very end to put this on to maximize the flavor potential of this little packet. So I use the noodle brick to kind of push the poached egg off to the side. And we'll submerge the noodles. Okay. And I will set my timer for 3 minutes. Although, since I like it a little bit softer, I will set it for 4. Okay. While those are cooking, let's see what else we can add. Tofu is really good in miso soup. I'm going to add it right at the very beginning because it takes the tofu a little bit of time to warm up all the way to the middle. This is firm tofu, but you can also buy medium or extra firm. I don't think I would recommend soft tofu here because it would just fall apart. Tofu itself has a very mild flavor, but it is known for picking up the flavor of whatever it's cooked with. So let me take the tofu. I'm going to kind of push it in to the sides so that it doesn't just sit on top of the noodles. Now, I like to add some Asian vegetables to my ramen soup. There are a number of types of Asian vegetables that you can usually find in Viroqua, like, for example, this Chinese cabbage. Chinese cabbage is softer and has a milder flavor than English cabbage, and this cooks faster too. So you can use the English cabbage, but it will take a little bit longer for it to cook. I'll just take one big leaf here and I'll cut it into some strips. And we'll stir that right in. Okay. Another kind of Asian vegetable that you can usually find at the co-op is bok choy. Bok choy usually comes in really large heads with long white stems, or I have a smaller baby bok choy variety here. I personally think that these have better flavor. I've already added the naka cabbage to the soup, so I don't think I'll use this bok choy right now. But here are some snow peas. Snow peas are similar to sugar snap peas, that they're both peas where you can eat the entire pod, but these are flat and the seeds are very underdeveloped. These are also a little bit less sweet than sugar snap peas. So you can use sugar snap peas if you like, but I prefer the flavor of snow peas myself. So in they go. What else do I have here? One of my favorite things to add to ramen soup is mushrooms. These are plain white button mushrooms, but you can use brown mushrooms or shiitakes or oyster mushrooms. I don't think morels will work very well, but just about any other type of mushroom that you can buy in the store, I think would taste really good in a ramen soup. Let's put those in too, and we'll give that a good stir. All right. Now, spinach is something else that you can add, but spinach you want to add right at the very end because otherwise it will overcook. Spinach cooks very quickly. So we'll wait for that. Now, one advantage of cooking things on the stovetop like this, as opposed to the hot water cup method or bowl method, is that, as you can see, you can just throw things in whenever. And that would be much harder with the bowl noodles because there really is not that much room inside the bowl. And also, with the cup noodles, you need to keep the lid firmly on so that none of the heat escapes. All right, it has been about 4 minutes. Noodles are done. I'm going to add my spinach. We'll push that underneath, and just like that, they are cooked. And you can do the same thing with scallions or bean sprouts too. Just wait until the last minute to put it in. All right. So now, I could just eat this bachelor style, straight from the pan over the sink. But for you, I'll put it into a nice bowl. This is a very full bowl, and it looks like all of the noodles have come to the top and all the stuff has come to the bottom, and that's because I did not do a very good job of stirring. But it's all in there, and it's all good. Okay. All right, now let's sprinkle on this spice pack at the very end. Do that so that the spice is not boiled away. And let's give it a try. A little soup. That's pretty good. I'm going to try a spoonful with, how about a mushroom and a pea pod and some noodles. And a little bit of soup. That's a good spoonful. And of course, you can make any combination you like. One of the reasons that I like eating with the spoon instead of just scooping the noodles is that the noodles stay in one piece. You see, the long noodles represent longevity or a long life. And that's why it is common to eat noodles when you're celebrating a birthday, to represent that wish for a long life. That is also why you do not cut the noodles before you eat them, because you don't want your life to be cut short, and not cutting the noodles symbolizes that desire. Of course, everyone wants to live long and prosper, but in Asian cultures, and undoubtedly in other cultures too, longevity is important because there is a strong tradition of respecting one's elders, especially older family members. And the longer you live, the more you're treasured. We can see this in various customs. For example, at meal times, you would customarily wait for the oldest person to start eating before you begin yourself. And you would generally also try to make sure that the oldest person or people in the room would have the place of highest honor at the table. For another example, it is customary to not call an older person by their name directly. So, for example, if someone were named, say, Joanne Hornby, and she was older than I am, more than a little older, so that we're not ambiguously the same age, then I should not call her Joanne. I should call her Ms. Hornby to show respect. Now, as an American-born Chinese, what they call an ABC, I did not have much trouble leaving that custom behind. So to me, Ms. Hornby is just Joanne, but my parents had a much more difficult time learning to call older people by their names. This custom is even stronger within families. For example, I do not refer to my aunt by her name, Ethel, or even Aunt Ethel. I address her with an honorific that essentially means second aunt on my mother's side, because family is very important. Family relationships are very important. And how I address her not only shows respect, but it emphasizes the familial relationship between me and my GE. There's also honorifics for, say, older siblings and older cousins, but they're not nearly that detailed. Ooh. I should not be so rude. Lacey has been operating the camera all this time, and I have not offered her anything to eat. Lacey, have you eaten yet? No. Oh dear. I will certainly lose face for being such an inconsiderate host, because hospitality is very important. Maybe I can save face by making Lacey some excellent noodles right now. Let's see. This time I think I will make the sesame ball noodles. I was looking forward to trying these myself, but being hospitable and tending to Lacey's needs, that's more important. So let's do this. First I need to clean up again. Please. All right, so as usual, we will start by putting our noodles in for 3 minutes. Now, it will be hard for Lacey to manage these noodles while she's operating the camera, so I'm going to make these as dry noodles. So I'm not going to put the seasoning packet in, just put the noodles in there. And set the timer for 3 minutes as usual. Now, let's see what else we can add in. Here we have some cooked chicken meat. I'm going to tear this into shreds, and then that will be one of our toppings. Now, this is some leftover rotisserie chicken, but you can use fast food fried chicken or chicken Q scraps or any cooked chicken that you have lying around. It'll all be good. That's pretty good. Next, I think I'll add a fried egg. So, I only have the one burner here, so I'm going to take the noodles off the heat and let them finish off the heat. Put a pan on, and I'll quick scramble up an egg. And a little oil to the pan. Swirl that around. I'm going to put my egg in, and I'm going to cook it without stirring to make kind of an egg pancake or kind of an omelet. Let's also just put the lid on so that the egg will set up nicely. Now while that's cooking, This is a cucumber. Now, I don't think a cucumber would work very well in ramen soup, but with the dry noodles, this should work out pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this into some strips here. And the reason that I'm cutting things into strips and shreds is so that they are kind of sort of the same shape as the noodles themselves, and that will make it easier to eat when they're mixed in the noodles. Put that there, ready to go. Now, bean sprouts are already in kind of a strip shape, so I don't have to do anything with them. And for garnish, I think I will cut up a little bit of scallion again, just for flavoring. Alright, it's ready to go. Now the egg is done. So let me take that out of the pan. And I will cut this into, you guessed it, strips. So that is ready to go. And the noodles are about done. So, first of all, I'm going to drain the noodles. Drain the noodles off. And we'll keep some of the water because we want a little bit of moisture so that our dry noodles are easy to stir. Let's transfer to a plate. And once again, get a little bit of that moisture, that's enough. I'm going to spread this widely on the plate. That will make it easier. That will make it easier to season the noodles easily and make it even. Here is the seasoning pack. Now with this one, you really do not want to use the whole packet because this will just be way too salty. I'm starting with maybe a quarter or a third of the packet, just evenly dusting it there. And we'll try and stir it up well so that everything is evenly distributed, more or less. We'll swipe one noodle for myself just to check that the seasoning is okay. Don't need to add any more. Okay, I think that's about right. Next, sesame oil noodles come with a little packet of sesame oil. I'm going to take that and drizzle that all over the noodles. And don't waste a drop of this good oil. There, and we'll stir it up again. Okay. And now we can add our garnishes. Let's add chicken and some cucumber. Here's the eggs. And some bean sprouts. And for the bean sprouts, there's a little bit of heat left in the pan. And that, and they're cooked. All right. So Lacey will be able to mix these up as she likes. Oh yes, and a little bit of scattered. All right, so Lacey, these are for you. So thank you again to the Viroqua Food Co-op for making it possible for the library to provide these four kinds of instant noodles. I've only done 3. Seems a shame not to do anything with this last one, the top ramen. Let's do something about that. Please. All right, so here we have the soy sauce flavored top ramen with the tofu and the carrots and the snow peas and the bok choy and the mushrooms cooked right in with the noodles. And now let's add some more of our toppings. Let's add some bean sprouts. Just kind of submerge them a little bit right there. Add some hard-boiled egg this time. Some shredded chicken meat. Here is some chashu. And here is some scallion. All right, that looks good enough to eat. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you again to the Viroqua Food Co-op for their generous grant that made it possible for the library to provide these 4 kinds of ramen. Thank you to the library for inviting me to come make and eat ramen with you. And especially, thank you to you for watching and participating in this program, Creating Communities Beyond Biases. So, let's eat.